Welcome back to Wellness with Delaney. I'm so excited because today I'm sitting down with my friend Aubree Mitchell. She's the founder of Aligned Movement, her own fitness platform that is transforming the lives and bodies of people all over the country. And she's a solopreneur. She has a really amazing, inspiring story in her own journey with mental health, with finding her healthy body and mindset. And I know you guys are just going to love this episode. Aubree, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I have been really anticipating this chat. I know just meeting you at the Aries event in California a few months ago, I was like, oh my gosh, this girl is so cool. And I just can tell you have a lot to share, which I think is really important. I love the way that you are so vulnerable on the internet. And, it can be hard to get your story across when you have 90 seconds of people's attention. So I'm really excited to have you for the next hour just to learn more about you, to learn more about what you do and how you impact the lives of others. Can you start by sharing a little bit, like, what is your background? Like, what is it that you do with Aligned Movement? Who are you in the wellness space?
Yeah, so I'm a certified personal trainer, Pilates coach. I teach yoga, and I've been in the group fitness space for it's like when time goes by, you forget to do the math. I think it's been over 6 years now in my area. And I developed this methodology that I've been doing in my area in person it was over 5 years until I switched over to online with what I'm building a year ago. So officially launched October 1st, but for me, when I was initially a personal trainer when I was 18, I'm 32 now. Crazy to say, I just had a birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I became a personal trainer and I was really not in the best space. It was more from a place of obsession and restriction and honestly overtraining. I trained myself for 2 marathons and then decided to become a certified personal trainer through NASM. And they placed me at a gym in the Chicagoland area. And if you know anything about the South Side of Chicago, I am not the demographic of individuals that are there. So I'm surrounded by all of these gorgeous sculpture of like D1 athletes. And of course, going into a gym, you're going to choose somebody that looks like you. But they were so supportive and so awesome. And they were like, okay, why don't you just come in here and we're going to show you this group training room. And it's kind of like an Orange Theory style. Everybody wore the heart rate monitors and there was a screen and you got to track all of that stuff. And I was like, whoa, this is my place to shine. So then I started to do that for a while. And then I became a flight attendant and then I worked on mega yachts. And then I moved to California. And that's kind of when my journey came back to fitness. I took a break for a while, just doing other things that were on my bucket list. And going to the gyms that I was going to, I was noticing just a lot of irresponsible behaviors that were going on. It was kind of like pay to play type situation. Anybody who can pay the $1,200 for this certification, you can teach here. And I would look around the room and it would be a room full of college age students. And in my mind, I'm just thinking to myself, this is crazy to allow them to work out in this way and to never come around and do form corrections, never to talk about any of those types of things, because really our body and movement is our gateway to health in besides nutrition, right? And sleep but that's one of the main pillars, I feel like. So I just kind of took all of the things that I knew and I started to train this method and people really liked it. And then I would tweak it here and there where I felt like it needed to have tweaking. And here we are. It's been going really good.
That's amazing. Okay, and so I know one thing with you, like with your workouts, which I've done and I love, but they're shorter than a lot of people would anticipate for like a workout class, right? Like most people are expecting to spend an hour working out, and that's kind of the standard. For you, your workouts are closer to half an hour, and I think some people might go into that and be like, wait, am I not going to burn enough calories? Like, how am I going to get the work done in that amount of time? What is your philosophy when it comes to like quality versus quantity and like how you actually get it done in less time?
I think that if you structure a class and get the muscle groups that you're focusing on, because most of my classes are going to be full body workouts, which I think is a great way to train. And you can do less time and less workouts in a week versus doing the full hour. But if you warm up the muscles properly, formulate it correctly, then your body's going to be ready to work more efficiently. And that's just kind of how I structured it and what I have learned from coaches over the years. And I have seen results in myself. I mean, this is the only way that I have ever trained myself. I've never been a gym girly, and everybody has different things that they like, right? And resistance training is really important. And some people don't want to go into a gym and lift weights in that type of space, and that's okay. I think that the best workout is one that somebody can do efficiently and can do consistently and brings them joy. If you hate what you're doing, you're not going to do it. So,
Right.
yeah.
No, I love that. And I think it also takes like some of the excuses out of it. You know, people who are like, I don't have that much time. I can't drive to the gym, work out for an hour, shower, drive home. Like I have stuff to do. I can't leave the kids at home, whatever, right? Okay, so you can do 30 minutes in your living room, right?
Mhm.
Like I think anyone can do 30 minutes in their living room. How much time do we spend watching Netflix? Like all these things that take much more time than that. So I love that component. What types of workouts, like what modalities do you offer on your online program?
So my format is the aligned burn, which is going to bring in Pilates principles, resistance training principles, some calisthenics in there, and some cardiovascular training. And that's going to be spread out through that entire class. But then I also have body weight workouts, so body weight Pilates classes. But then I also like to give the option, because there's such a big culture of those studios, and people are like, I need 16 different pieces of equipment and we've got to get this all done. So I like to offer Pilates sculpt classes, yoga and yoga sculpt classes, and then guided stretching. And I do ask that everybody does their sprint training once a week, because obviously our heart is really important. So improving your VO2 max with sprints is going to be the best way to go. And then trying to hit your step goal, whatever that step goal is, however you're going to get to it. I like to tell people at least 7,500 or more. And I know that a lot of people will say 10K. I think there's a balance between everything, right? Everybody's got their own philosophy and methodology. If you can hit 7,500 in a day, I'm happy with that, if you're doing the other exercises as well. So
Absolutely. Well, then it's like just having that number gets you out walking, right? Like it gets you moving, and that's the most important part. Okay, with sprint training, why would sprint training be important versus, let's say, like jogging on the treadmill, right? Like that steady state cardio.
I don't think one is better than the other. I just have learned from Kayla Barnes, who is a female focused longevity specialist, that that is the best way to train our heart and lungs. And doing sprint training of 4x6, so 4 minutes of sprinting, 6 minutes of recovery, that's your goal. You're not going to probably be able to start there if you just are starting that. I don't do it on foot. I don't really run anymore. I do it on my Peloton. You could do it on any stationary bike. You could do a walking variation of it. So if you're just doing a brisk walk for 4 minutes and then 6 minutes of recovery, you do that 4 rounds, and that's going to help improve your VO2 max. And so the maximum at which your heart could withstand stress.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And I love that you mentioned that you can do it like on the Peloton, like you can do it with bike, you can do it with walking. Cause I think for a lot of people, like sprinting is really daunting, like the running, right? And they think sprinting is only it's like running, maxing out the treadmill, which is great if you can do that. But some people like that's scary, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that's not me. I mean, you can do it on the stairs, you can do it hiking, and like I mentioned, alternating between brisk walk and normal walk, whatever that looks like for you. So it really can be done, and no matter the facet. I mean, you can't really make an excuse, because you can figure out a way to do it no matter what.
So I one thing I love that you share on your page that you're really transparent about, because I think that in the fitness world, it can look very like you either are 100% in or you're failing, right? It's like perfect regimen, perfect diet, perfect journey. And you've really shared like the messy, and you've shared the journey to get where you are today. And I think that's really like important and vulnerable, because for people who, let's say like somebody's looking at one of the top fitness influencers on Instagram, and their whole page is fitness perfection, right? They don't even necessarily get to see where it starts and realize that everyone starts somewhere. And I think there's a lot of importance to people seeing that we all do start somewhere on the journey to get to that aspirational level. for you specifically, one thing I know that you've shared is kind of your journey with like eating disorder, with your body, just kind of transformation from like feeling maybe overweight to what you wanted to be, to underweight, to getting healthy, and like finding your kind of finding yourself in that as well, just like that self-discovery journey. Can you take me along that journey with you to how you ended up today, like so healthy, vibrant? I know you told me that you have like the biological age of what, 17?
Yeah. 17. So one thing that I think people really should strive for is your fitness is just part of your life. It's not something you obsess over. You're not weighing everything. You're not like we wanted to get to a point where this is just passive and you're not even trying. I don't try. I don't even think about anything in my routine. It just is. And I think that that's such a freeing place to be. And I would love for as many women as possible to get to this point. And growing up, I had a pretty traumatic childhood. And so food was the only thing that I could control. I think there was a point where I was allowing myself 3 rice cakes a day. It was like
Wow.
crazy. And if I felt like I needed to have one that wasn't plain, I was on that treadmill for hours. And when the external is so chaotic and you find something that you can be in control of, that's a really scary place to be. And getting down to 89 pounds, when I would get on that scale and I would see the number down in the double digits, now it's down in the low 90s. I got so high off of that. And that's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And people, it was really the first time people were noticing me, saying how good, girls saying how good I looked. And that was the approval that I wanted. I can think back to a time of being at the beach and laying in the sun, and you could literally see the food moving through my intestines. You could see it going over my abdomen.
Wow.
And reflecting on that is so heartbreaking as a woman of maternal age. That just makes me so sad. And then on the flip side of it, I got into this very incredibly abusive relationship, and it's just like slowly they start to take away things from you, right? And we went out to eat every single meal, and I wasn't allowed to have a gym membership because I couldn't go anywhere without him. And then I gained a lot of weight, and I was 30 pounds overweight. And I just woke up one day. Well, I went to the gynecologist, and they came in and just left. They were like, "Oh, we're just going to leave this paperwork here for you." And when I left and gathered my clothes and looked at the paperwork, it said, "Tips to lose weight because you're overweight." And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, how have I gotten to this point? And so that's when I started going to those studios that I mentioned earlier, where I was looking around the room and seeing just a lot of discrepancies in how I would train. And I was like, okay, I need to get back into this for myself. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. I lost over 30 pounds naturally, not restricting super crazy, not doing anything insane. I actually went keto for 3 months to just kind of do a full reset on myself and get my insulin resistance under control and just kind of take control in that aspect. And then I just was on a whole foods diet after that, because I don't think keto should be used long-term, especially for women's health, but it was good in that setting. And I think that that can be beneficial for a lot of clients. So just to kind of do that reset on the body. And that's kind of my journey with that. And I just think that people need to know that you have to figure out what's going on in here in order to stop obsessing with the external.
Yeah. Do you think for a lot of people, and I know that you have your experience, but I also know that people probably share with you as well. Do you think for a lot of people, like struggling with an eating disorder is less about like the physical, like I want to look perfect, and more about control in the midst of chaos?
1,000%. At least everyone that I have met that has experienced that.
Mhm.
Even, I think it's funny, but people like to swap and say disordered eating versus eating disorder.
Mhm.
Even people who have disordered eating habits, it's more so of a control type situation because of internal chaos that's going on, maybe even external chaos in their life. Yeah, I definitely would say that's accurate.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable. And I think there's a lot we can tap into. Do you think so today, like where you are today, do you ever feel like you still have to battle, like, do like creeping feelings of like the past come in? Or do you feel like you're at a place where like spiritually, mentally, physically, it's just like peaceful and healed?
Body dysmorphia is a crazy thing,
Hmm.
especially as a woman who, I don't use hormone or birth control or anything like that anymore. So when I don't necessarily have I don't really have any PMS symptoms at all, but on occasion, I will be in my late luteal phase and I will look in the mirror and I will see something. And one reason that I actually started creating content and enjoyed the editing portion so much was I got to see with my real eyes what other people see through a camera lens. And if you know anything about a
Hmm.
sunset, the sunset with your real eyes is way more beautiful than what you see on screen. And so it has been so grounding to see myself on camera and really kind of put those things to rest. But I would be a liar if I said that that doesn't happen on occasion when my hormones are fluctuating naturally, like they should be during.
That's
Gotta get that luteal demon in check, is what I like to tell.
Yeah. It's like a little luteal devil, and this is so real because I think that even some of the healthiest women experience this. I know I experienced this. There'll be, like, that day or 2 where I'm like, "Wait, did I just, like, gain 5 pounds? Am I out of control?" Right? Like, "What did I do?" And then all of a sudden, a couple days go by and you, like, detox on your period, and you're like, "Oh, she's back. Never mind. I was just being crazy. Just the hormones." So when that happens, like, what are your tools in your mental toolbox to help combat those feelings?
So I have notes that I write myself all over my house, these little heart sticky notes. And one of them that I have written down says, at the end of my life, I hope that the way that I looked physically was the least interesting thing about me. And I mean that to my core. What you look like does not matter.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How do you make others feel? How do you treat others? How do you treat others in silence when no one's watching? Like, who are you when it's just you and God? And
Mhm.
that's really how I keep myself in check, because integrity to me is the most important thing. And what you look like really doesn't matter. When you go to a party and you're with a bunch of people and you're all in swimsuits, nobody leaves there and thinks, dang, Barbara had that cellulite out.
Yeah.
Nobody does that. Nobody
Yeah.
cares. And
And if
if
they
they
do, they're horrible. Like, if they do, you
too
shouldn't
bad
be
if
their
they're
friend, you
relevant.
know?
Exactly. So that's how I keep myself grounded, and it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like that, like, healed me, you saying that, because I know even right now, I'm just kind of in a season where, like, there's a lot out of my control, and I'm really learning that, like, as somebody who has always had the same formula and everything's always worked, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you have a perfect, like, routine for years and it works, and then you feel a little out of control and it can make you spiral, and I've been really, like, actually, I was reflecting on that before this episode on how, like, I'm really learning that looking perfect and looking how I wanna look is, like, the least important thing my body will ever do, you know?
Uh,
And I think it's such an important message because women, there is this, like, attack, and I think it really is a spiritual attack on women. Like, we're constantly being told via media, via our own demons, via just, like, subliminal messaging out there that, like, we're not good enough, we're not pretty enough, and for some reason it always seems to be, like, the attack is, like, you're not hot enough, and it's never, "Are you being a good enough person? Are you being a kind enough person?" Like, you know what I'm saying? It's attacks on these stupid things that really aren't helping anyone, and it's so rude. I mean, I really do believe it is, like, a spiritual attack on so many levels. And so kind of shifting, I really want to tap into this if you're comfortable, but I know you mentioned that you were in an abusive relationship and that was like part of the cause of just like in the journey and the weight gain and the struggles there. For you looking back, like as the wise woman you are now, on, kind of with hindsight being 2020, like what would be some of the relational red flags that young women should look out for when it comes to a relationship that might turn abusive?
So, one thing that has been really sitting with me being on the other side of it. So, saying this could potentially be hard to hear for some people if you're actively in something like that, but nonetheless, it is true. I learned through experience that if you don't take care of the trauma that's going on inside the root cause, so for me, it was my childhood, the relationships that you call into your life, because you always call in what's familiar, you always seek out what's familiar, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it could be good. And it tends to get bigger and more dramatic and more dangerous at the end of the day. So this person that I dated, there was emotional abuse that was there, and I left that. And then a bunch of other self-destructive things happened in between the time that I met this last person. And I mean, I knew that I was going to die if I did not get out of there. And it was really scary. And I think that the biggest message is if you do not address those root causes of the dysfunction, of the trauma from your childhood, or whatever it might be that is your root cause, you can get yourself into a really dangerous situation, because slowly over time, you're normalized to those really scary behaviors.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes like, and I don't know, I'm speaking for you here, but like, do you think it becomes like a level of like you feel like that's what you deserve? Like people struggle to feel like they actually deserve more?
100%. Yeah. It's what you deserve, and it's what is comfortably uncomfortable for you.
Yeah.
And just them eating away at your goodness and your light that you have within you. And this is not necessarily only for romantic relationships. This is for friendships as well. And this has been something that I've really been going through a lot in this last couple of years. That has been really so crazy to go through, because you couldn't imagine friends doing those same types of things, but they do at the end of the day. And you have to learn to love yourself more than you want to have friendships.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, absolutely. No, I so feel you there where I can't necessarily resonate with like the romantic component. And I really feel for you and anyone who's going through that, but just on the friendship level, even like my husband and I were talking about that yesterday, where similarly a couple years ago I went through like a really weird season where I just like a lot of friendships ended and ended badly. And reflecting back on it, I was like, oh my gosh, it all was rooted in the fact that I was people pleasing because I wasn't comfortable being alone. And so I was making friends that were not the right fit for me, that were not compatible, that didn't really care about me or know me beyond like partying, right? And eventually, eventually that's going to always fall short because that's not like a lasting, deeply rooted relationship. And there is none of that closeness. And often you find that like when you're somebody like you and me, when you tend to be a little bit more like polarizing in some of your opinions, like when those people get to know you, they actually hate you. And that was something I experienced a lot. And it was painful. But then like looking back, and then I was talking about where I am now, I was like, wow, it's so different now, where I feel like I approach friendships much more slowly because I don't feel like I need them. Where before, because I needed them, I was like, I'll be whoever you want me to be, right? And then that could never last because it was fake. And then eventually the friendship would explode. And I'd be like, why did that happen? Well, probably because I shouldn't have been in that room to begin with. Like that was not the friendship for me to begin with. For you, like, and I know that I know you've kind of shared just the way you've transformed your life and your relationships. Like what do you look for now when it comes to healthy relationships, whether it's romantic, friendship, chosen family, like all of that?
I think something that I'm actively working on now is letting people be exactly who they are. And
Mm,
that is kind of an interesting skill that I'm currently actively trying to get better at. Just letting people be who they are, sitting back, witnessing and watching, and then you have to make the decision, is that somebody that I want to have in my life? Is that somebody who has a good character? Because just tying back into looks earlier, I care about having a beautiful character, not a beautiful external, because
mm-hmm.
this is going away. This is going away over time. Your character is what matters the most. And really, I don't know. It's an active learning process that I guess, um, yeah, I'm like kind of really struggling with that right now because I guess sometimes you think that some people have good intentions and then it comes out that they didn't. And
Mm.
it is pretty heartbreaking to go through that. And it just is what it is. And you have to say, dang, well, that sucks, but gotta just let it go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like God's protection, honestly. I always try to, I mean, I think that's like how you also can cope with it without being like falling apart, right? Being like, okay, this relationship ended. I saw these true colors. That's God's protection. Like it always could be worse, right? And it's that always sounds, I feel like when I say that, it sounds like a not compassionate answer. I'm like, I think just sometimes that's the mentality we have to have so we don't hurt worse, right? Because it can be painful to ruminate on that. So for you, I know that one thing you've shared is kind of how the presence of alcohol like affected the relationships that you formed at a young age and how that's kind of shifted now and just where you're at. I would love to hear a little bit about your journey with alcohol and like where do you stand with it now as like a person who is pursuing health and wellness?
So I started drinking when I was a child. My parents had me at 15 and 17 years old. And I was kind of just really thrown at my grandparents' house during the week. I was with my mom during the week and my dad only on weekends. And I was 4 years younger than my cousins. So I remember being probably 6 or 7 years old, and they would have me, because I was the youngest and the most innocent, go into the fridge and grab a Pepsi and grab a wine cooler and go into the bathroom. And they would make me dump out the Pepsi and pour the wine cooler into that. So that was the first time I was ever exposed to alcohol. And they would make me get her Virginia Slim, like the butts of her Virginia Slim cigarettes, and go and meet them in the trees with the Pepsi can and the cigarette. And they would like sit around this fire pit and do that. And I mean, I didn't know. I'm a little girl and I just wanted to be liked and involved because I wasn't liked or involved or really wanted by any of them. And so the relationship with my mom was, there was just so much turmoil and so much pain and so much hurt for me, everyone at school. When we got into high school, that was just kind of what everybody did on the weekends. Living in Farmtown, USA, like an hour south of Chicago is where I grew up. That's pretty much what everybody did, was just drink, and that's kind of it. And my cousin died. She got hit by a car when I was a teenager, and I had moved out of my mom's house in with my father because I was old enough to make that decision once I turned 16. And I got bullied at that new school that I had to transfer to. And I was my first, you first love, like this one that you're just so
Mhm.
infatuated with. He died as well. And I was supposed to be on the back of his motorcycle that day. And I remember going to the ICU, and I still to this day do not understand why they let me in there. The memories of that scene is pretty intense in my mind. And then he was on life support for a week before his heart gave out. So seeing those things happen. And then after that is really when the drinking got exponentially worse. And it was like, who can I be around that doesn't want to ask too many questions? And people who tend to have hurt in their own life tend to be those people. And so we went to this place called Indiana Beach, and I had one drink and don't remember the rest of the night, but I do remember being sexually assaulted and waking up to that, or coming out of whatever, like if I was drugged, I don't know the storyline. And then it got really bad after that. And I had gotten DUIs, 2 DUIs within a couple weeks of each other. And just, I mean, it was just a downward spiral, just all of those things happening. And then drinking and being just in dangerous situations. I was sexually assaulted 4 more times. So I don't want to have a relationship with alcohol at all. Nobody that I look up to drinks.
Mhm.
And, I had a really good attorney back then, and I am a good person. So I don't have anything on my record from those DUIs, thank God. But yeah, it took a lot to get to where I am now. And now I'm not a sober person. It just has a different energy about it. I don't really have interest in like going and wine tasting, or getting home from work and having a glass of wine, or, just even having it be a main part of socializing in my life. It's not. Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem going to a bar and being around people who are drinking, or going to my friend's house and people are drinking. It's not something that I have a problem with. It's not like I was an alcoholic, but I definitely had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol because of underlying trauma.
No, and I think that a common thread here with everything you're sharing, from the relationships, the eating disorders, to the alcohol, it's like oftentimes these toxic behaviors or toxic situations we end up in are the result of internal chaos that needs to be healed, right? Like, we don't make our best decisions. We don't stay in the best relationships. We don't act out of our highest selves when there is that deeply rooted chaos and we don't feel settled or at peace to begin with. And people so often are searching for something to fulfill them, and they search in all the wrong places. And I think it's so real. And I really appreciate your rawness in sharing this, because I know that sometimes it can be like embarrassing or hard to share like the uglier sides of our lives. But I think it's really important to acknowledge those parts of the journey, because nobody wakes up one day and they're inspirational, right? Like, there's a lot of mud that the best people go through to get where they are. So I really appreciate that. So for someone today, let's say somebody is like in a place where they're either struggling with alcohol, or they're in a situation where they maybe have social anxiety, right? Like, if they're the one who's not drinking and they want to drink less, but they want to keep their friends and they don't know how to balance both. Like, do you have any advice for those people who would like to kind of cut ties with their association with alcohol?
First thing that I would say is, if you say that you are interested in slowing down your alcohol consumption and your friends are annoyed about that, those are not your friends. Because people who love you and know you fully and wholly are going to be supportive of any decision you make. At the end of the day, alcohol is poison, period.
Mm-hmm.
It is not good for your health. It does not matter. It is poison. And if you're doing it for escapism, your friends would be concerned and they would be supportive of you healing those unhealthy attachment styles to it. Mm-hmm. So I would say that first and foremost. Second of all, there are so many good mocktails that are out there. And I think that for me, it gives me that same little dopamine dump when I open my Day Soir, that's my favorite mocktail brand, and put it in a cute glass And I just bring those. I bring those to social gatherings that I'm not going to be drinking at. And you have just as much fun. It's just, it's not that deep. I
Yeah.
think what people really need to take home. And I do still feel social anxiety, but for me, I kind of get high off an opportunity for personal growth.
Mm,
Like, oh man, I feel a little bit nervous about that situation. I want to go towards that because I don't want to feel nervous about that situation. I don't want to think I need to have a glass of wine to feel confident in a room of people who I'm inspired by. Also, I don't want my inhibitions to be lowered in a room of people that I'm inspired by. So
mm,
I think that it's really empowering. And something else that's been really helpful for me was my dad had a really bad drinking problem my whole life. He's been sober for probably like 4 or 5 years now. I'm really proud of him. I write down, who do I want to be? What type of mother do I want to be? And that is something that I am excited about. I am excited to be a mom. I am excited to be a wife. My career and everything else, that's just side extra stuff. Those are my most prized positions that I will be as a person. So I don't want to be the parent who the kid sees drinking. Or imagine being at your child's party and you are intoxicated. It's easier for women to get drunk quicker. And imagine just having a cloudy memory of that.
yeah.
That just gives me the ick. I don't want to, that's not who I want to be as a woman.
Mhm.
That is not inspiring to me. So for me, that's just my guiding light. Who do I want to be? And when I really started doing fitness more full time, because I was going to school, I was studying genetics, I was going to be a naturopathic doctor, and then I decided to quit 1 semester before I finished my genetics degree and really go all in on this. And a 16-year-old girl was in one of my classes, one of my Pilates classes at a studio, and she stayed after and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I just look up to you so much. And when I finish high school, I'm going to get certified in Pilates and I want to do what you do." And at that moment, it was like me talking to my younger self, but also being little me talking to my older self. It was just this really weird moment for me where I was like, oh my gosh, I am a role model.
Mm.
Who I want to be. And that has just been the torch that I ran with.
I love this so much. And I love to see, I think our generation is really like, I mean, I've been seeing statistics like our generation is drinking less than any other generation, right? And I really I love that because I'm like someone where like once in the bluest moon, I might have like a spicy margarita, like if it's my favorite one, or like once in the bluest moon might have a glass of champagne, but it's like so minimal, so infrequent, and I do not like the feel of getting buzzed. So it's really not something I do, right? You know what I mean? Like it'll be like, oh, like I haven't had a drink in like 6 months. I'll go for a margarita. Sounds kind of good, and we'll have one. But it used to be more. I used to be more on the social anxiety end, where it wasn't even that I wanted to drink or craved alcohol. It was that I would be in these social scenarios and I didn't know how to keep up if I wasn't drinking. And I heard this podcast once, and it was about people like that, where it's like, you're not, for people who aren't an alcoholic but want to kind of break up with alcohol, right? Like, because there's all these 12-step programs for people who struggle with addiction, but what about the people who don't, but just feel like they want less? And this woman was saying, like, either alcohol, like, if you're drinking it in that way, you're either drinking it to create a feeling or escape a feeling, right? So you're doing it to create, maybe you become more funny, more exuberant, more likable, or maybe you're escaping your social anxiety, escaping your like introverted self, like all these things. But then, like you were saying, you're not developing personal growth. I think actually you have the opposite, right? Because now every time you do that, you further cement that idea into your brain, that neural pathway that you can't function in a social scenario without alcohol. So it's like the more you do that, the more you believe that limiting belief that you can't be in those scenarios. So I think the only way out is through, the only way out is just to do it. Like go to that party and don't drink. The first one will probably be weird. Okay. And then every
Mhm.
time you do it, it gets less weird and less weird. And then you someday you realize that like you've become the person you want to be without a substance assisting you, you know? And that's so been my experience. And I think it's really beautiful. Like people people realizing that they actually don't need to alter who they are and alter their brains to be likable. Like you are likable just the way you are, which I love. So kind of along with you were mentioning, just the health component of drinking as well and wanting to become a mom someday. For you now, like in this stage of life where that's a goal of yours, are you doing anything actively to just kind of work on your fertility and your ability when the time comes to become a mother?
I think that my lifestyle is fertility promoting, getting enough sleep, making sure I do food first nutrition is kind of my mindset on that. So getting my salmon eggs in every day because sardines make me want to vom. Unfortunately, I've
Mhm.
tried so many times to force
Same.
it, but it's like you just can't force fetch. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm doing salmon eggs now for my omegas to get DHA and EPA. Also maintaining this one was really hard. And I think that you will probably be able to relate to this. Obviously, there's nuance, but this is just a general rule, not rule, a general recommendation for women in general. 20% to 30% body fat is going to be the optimal range for your hormone function as
Mhm.
a woman. So if you're falling below that and you are having hormonal acne or your periods are not regular, getting your body fat up is going to be my first recommendation, period, always. And as somebody who really enjoys, I love to be around 18% body fat, but it is not good for my specific body to get myself that low. I love to push myself. I love being regimented and going really hard. And so leaning into this feminine kindness to myself, because I don't want to say softness, because I think people might hear softness and think fat. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yes, and I
Because I don't want
totally
to
know
say
what you
softness
mean.
because I'm ripped. You can see my six pack. My back muscles are insane. You can see all the muscles in my legs. So I don't want to say softness because I think that could be, I don't know, red flag for all the gym girlies that listen, but more so kindness, just kindness to yourself. And if you want to have children someday and you want to decrease the likelihood of any issues along that process, then you need to get your body fat up a little bit. It's not that
Yes.
deep.
Yes. No, this one's hard, and I do resonate with you. You're right, because even earlier this year, my body fat was well below what would be considered like fertility, but I liked it. That same thing where it's like, I like my abs to show. I like to be cut. But then when I was like, okay, it's time to focus on fertility, I was like, okay, we got to get the body fat up. And it's hard at first. I think it's hard for the gym girls and the biohacking girls who are like, I'm dialed in and it's all perfect and I'm so inspirational to be like, actually, it's okay to put on a little body fat. It's not going to kill you. And the thing is, if you want to be so lean sometimes, like it's not necessarily good for you, but if it's something you want, you can always go back to it. But
Yeah.
like,
So for me, it was getting my functional lab work done and seeing that my leptin was at the level of an anorexic. And that's
wow.
common.
Mhm.
It was down to 2, which is super low. That's common amongst the Pilates princess girlies and the girls
Mhm.
who love to work out. And it's not even necessarily flagged because they are like, oh, well, this is why I can endlessly eat. And getting your body fat up is the first way to combat that. So I got my body fat up. My leptin is at a level 4, which is good. And people don't necessarily know that leptin plays a big role in implantation. So it also plays a big role in bone density. So prolonged low leptin, if you're not a person who's even thinking about having children, because that is common. People are like, that's not even on my mind. I'm not thinking about that. So I'm not doing any of those things. Well, osteoporosis should be something that is on your mind long term.
For
So
sure.
whether you are done having children or not really thinking about children yet, or you are, whatever facet of woman that you are, having your leptin levels in check is important for female health, period. So
Yeah.
when I learned that information, it just kind of changed the tone of body fat for me. And I got myself 22. I'm at 23% body fat right now. And I'm so happy with how I look. I have this beautiful feminine physique. I grew boobs, which who grows 2 cup sizes in their mid to late 20s. So yeah, it's been so nice to lean into that.
Yeah, it's like nature's implants. I love this.
100%.
But and it's so true. Like if you look at like the sculptures, I always think of like Greek mythology when they were creating like Aphrodite, right? She's the goddess of like beauty and sex and aphrodisiac, da da da. She's not stick thin. Maybe she has a little more body fat than I would like to have personally, I will say. But she has soft curves, and I think that's important to remember. Like when we actually look at historically things that were created to embody like femininity at its maximum, we're not looking at women with ripped six pack, like you can see every little striation. There is a little bit of more softness, and like that's also like protective for the womb, right? Like it's temperature control, it's support for your thyroid. There's so much there that like it can be so easy to want to look stick thin, especially with all the stuff on social media nowadays promoting it. But it's okay to have a little bit of body fat. Like I know that it's a hard journey, but yeah, super important. And I know you talk about this a lot, but like without body fat, you can't have a juicy booty. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's so important. And have you seen the post? It went around, it's gone around like so many times, but Dave Asprey did a whole thing on like how men are attracted to big booties because of like biological like smartness in utero or something crazy like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a natural biological and it's an innate instinct to be more attracted to somebody who has bigger thighs and a bigger butt, because that just signals fertility to a person. Because I mean, even as women, we admire each other because we are so beautiful. So how could we not? But yeah, just instinctively we do that, and that fat turns into fuel and food for the baby. So
Mm-hmm.
get your ass out.
I heard specifically for a booty, like the adipose tissue in the glutes. I don't know what the science is behind this, but I've heard Dave Asprey talk about it in people like how that is connected to having like a smarter baby. Like that fat like grows their brain.
Yeah.
So, work your glutes, eat some food, have a smart
Yes.
baby. That's the
Yes.
moral of this episode.
That's the
And
moral of the story.
also, you have grown your glutes without heavy weights. Like people don't think that's possible. How do you do it?
I think that eating is really good. First and foremost, you got to eat.
Mhm.
And I did dance my entire life. So I think having a solid foundation is really important. And glute activation is also something that I really focus on in my classes. Women have notoriously just stronger lower bodies, right? And our quadriceps are typically the main movers in leg exercises if you don't do glute activation properly first. So that's why when I had talked about earlier, how you structure the class is going to set you up for the entire workout. So if you get your glutes, if you get the posterior chain activated properly at the start of your workout, that is going to be your primary mover in your exercises versus your quads. Because once your quads get fired up, it's really hard to turn them off because they're really strong.
Mhm.
So that is how I have done it. And like I mentioned, my workouts is the only thing that I have ever done for the last 6 years now. This is all I've done. And I don't lift anything heavier than 8-pound weights.
Mhm. Yeah, this is
I'm just
amazing.
aggressive.
This is amazing because you see all the videos like, oh, you need to be like pushing 300 pounds if you want glutes. And like, great, that's great if you enjoy it. Like sometimes I enjoy that, but sometimes I enjoy more like I like both. So I kind of bounce between like lightweight, kind of more Pilates sculpt style, and then heavyweight just kind of based on the mood or the time in my cycle and like what feels good. But I certainly don't think that you need to be doing like 3x8s of 300-pound hip thrusts to get glutes. I mean, the
Right.
proof is in the pudding right there, right? So for even like an injury, let's say someone does not care about having like big glutes, they don't care about the aesthetics, but like from an injury prevention or like longevity standpoint, what's the benefit of having strong glutes?
So it's good for your posture, which is the foundation for your whole entire body. Going to back to what you just said, people will see the fact that they are being told to lift really heavy, but they have never lifted a day in their life. They don't have any of the stability foundation. They don't have any of their balance training down. And if you just go and you start to push heavy weight like that, your risk for injury is way higher because you don't have that foundation built. And I mean, I encourage people to choose their own weights and to go up in weights if that feels like something that they're ready for, because you are going to progress over time. That is the entire point of building muscle, is progressive overload. So just to say, like, I didn't start out, I know I'm only at 8-pound dumbbells that I work out with, but that's because I'm filming. And so I can't lift anything heavier because then I can't teach and talk. I'll be too winded. I started with 2 pounds, and that's what I would use for a while. Sometimes I would do body weight. I think that if you're going from 0 or even starting after you have been working out for a while, that mind muscle connection and building that strong foundation is going to get you so much farther, because now I will go to this really gorgeous, amazing gym that's down the street for me, and I can lift really heavy. Sometimes I'll be like, I did not know that I'm that strong. And I'm like impressed by myself, but I think it's because of all of these years of setting myself up for success in lifting heavier.
Yeah, that's so valid. You know, how many people just go to the gym and they're watching videos and that's their workout and they just go crazy. I mean, there's been so many times that even like with my limited background, I don't have near the background in fitness that you do, just a couple like group fitness certs. And I'll watch someone doing like a heavy back squat or like Bulgarian split squat and their back is out, like everything's just whack. And I'm like, do I go say something? Like, you're gonna hurt yourself. And most of the time I don't, because I'm like so nervous, but I'm like, no, the foundations are so important. And that's why it's so important to work with people who know what they're doing, especially if you don't know what you're doing, because you have to build off of like something that's rooted in longevity and rooted in like proper body metrics. Speaking of all of that, like how do people, if people want to work out with you, like where do they find your program? How do they shop it?
So my social media is We Are Aligned Movement. That's my brand page. And then my page is Aligned by Aubree, and you can do it on there. It's first week free. It's $15 a month or $126 a year, which comes out to less than $3 a week, which is an amazing price, especially
Mhm.
for what you're getting. And I also tell you what to do Monday through Friday. And so that's going to update every week, and I add new workouts, and it's going so well, and I am having so much fun doing it. I think that it's really important for people to, yes, things are form focused, but I want these exercises to be translatable to things that you're doing in real life. So, for example, I have to take my trash cans, I have to put them in the truck bed, and I have to drive them down to the end of the road. And then I have to get them out of the truck. And then once they're empty, I have to get them into the truck. So, to get them out of the truck, I am deadlifting them down and out. And to get them into the truck, I am deadlifting them in. So, I want you to hear my voice in the back of your head being like, okay, back's flat, core's pulled in, soften through the knees, drive through your heels. Like, I want you to think about those kinds of things to be able to have realistic movement in your life, but it's translatable to our workouts, and it doesn't have to be perfect form. I want you to be training with your arms extended out and away from your body. So that way, when something does fall from up above your head, you can reach and grab it and you're not going to hurt your lower back. Or, when people will be like,
Mhm.
tweak my back, twisting, doing like
Yeah.
something so silly. But if you were working your spine in rotation and just doing all the different planes of motion consistently in your workouts, and you had variety in your training, your body is going to be much more resilient to those movements.
Absolutely. I mean, working out is not just about how we look. It's literally about how we function in our day-to-day lives, especially as we're an aging population. Like, so important. If you guys are in your 20s or 30s listening, like work on these things now. It's going to be much harder to start working on that when you're 75 and everything's out of whack because you never trained when you were young and had the energy and the collagen and like the hormones to help build muscles. Okay, last question that I love to ask everyone. What is your current health and wellness goal that you're working on?
My current health and wellness goal that I'm working on is really just to be observant be observant and to continue to be submissive in what my life is showing me. And it's really challenging and also really rewarding, kind of heartbreaking in some instances, but in the best way possible.
Mhm. I love that. I love the approach to it's not just about, like, muscling through life, but, I think just having that submission in life, and I know for you, like, you've talked about your journey with God and everything, like, just, like, having that submission and that kind of hands open mentality and approach where it's like, you're a strong steward, but you're not like, "This is the way it's gonna go because I said so." Is a really healthy place to be, so I love that and commend you for that. So, okay, you mentioned where people can find your business. Where can people find you if they wanna connect with you personally? I know that you also do content on kind of your own individual side as well.
Yeah, my social media is Aligned by Aubree, and my website is alignedmovement.co. And you can also find my app in the App Store, Aligned Movement by Aubree M, wherever you get your apps from. But I personally like to do it on the laptop the best because then you
Mhm.
can also use the Spotify playlist that I've created with it if you have the same music vibe as me. And if you don't, then you can use your own. So
Love
I don't
that.
think there's any other platform out there that does that. So
Love that so much. And yeah, you guys, if you're listening and you're interested, I'll also put a discount code and link in the show notes so that you can shop because I love to hook you guys up. And Aubrey's been so kind to offer me one. So if you guys want to even save some more, I'll make sure that you have that opportunity in the show notes. Go check Aubrey out, connect with her, DM her on Instagram, join her program, do the workouts, and get your strongest, fittest body yet with her methodology for 30 minutes ish a day. It's going to be amazing. Aubrey, thank you so much for joining today.
thanks for having me. That was so fun.
Had such a great time with you. You guys, thank you so much for listening. As always, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will chat soon.